Welcome to New York Buddha Dharma, you hardy souls, or non-souls, you hardy non-souls, since we're Buddhists here. Braving the weather. So we're making our way through the Bardos, of which there are 6 main ones. Of course, Bardo simply means interval. And they're most commonly associated with death, because the Bardo teachings, some of them have to do with death. But there's also the Bardo of this life, which we talked about last week, and the Bardo of Dream, which we're going to speak about tonight, discuss. And there's the Bardo of Meditation, which will be next week. And then we get to the Bardo of Dying, which is actually still part of this life, the process of dying. And that's a very interesting one. It describes both the physical and the mental process by which we depart this life. And then there are the 2 death Bardos, which take place between death and rebirth. The first is called the Bardo of Reality, or in Sanskrit, the Bardo of Dharma, Tibetan, the Chini Bardo. And then there is the Sipa Bardo, which is the Bardo of Becoming. That is the Bardo of the interval in which we go through the experiences that will propel us into our next birth, which we hope will be, as a human being, if we're not enlightened, will be reborn. But it could be somewhat worse. It could be reborn as an animal, God, whole being. None of those are desirable. Only human beings can tread the path to enlightenment. Only human beings have the necessary physical and mental equipment to practice the Dharma. Animals don't. Hell beings don't. Gods are too happy, and they also don't have quite the physical apparatus that we do, and that is necessary. And so, tonight, we're talking about the Bardo of Dream. This is the experience of dreaming. And there are roughly 3 ways to understand the word dream. The first is the one that pops immediately to mind, probably, and that is what happens to you at night. That's the shortest kind of dream. And you experience this when you go to sleep, and it's a purely mental place. It's driven by your past karma. By that I mean all the experiences that you've had in this life and in previous lives are stored in what in Buddhism is called the storehouse consciousness. Freud called it the unconscious. It's like none of you are thinking of a pet until I mention the word, and then suddenly the idea of a pet springs to mind. Have you ever had one? And even if you haven't. Because the memory of and the experience of encountering pets is stored in your alaya, in your storehouse consciousness. And external events can trigger it, and suddenly you're thinking about that lovely little dog or cat that you had as a child, whatever it might be, or have now. But also, when you go to sleep at night, in the Bardo of Dream, the storehouse kicks it out, just churns out your past experiences, and they come out mixed up in various forms as dreams. So you might have a dream about your pet, and you might conflate it with some other things that are stored in your storehouse consciousness, and it could come out as a nightmare about a pet, or as a wonderful, pleasant dream about a pet, or as something neutral. It doesn't matter. This is the action of karma. It's the action with which things come out of the alaya into the experience in the present moment. And what comes out of the alaya is not necessarily the most immediate experience. It's what one teacher that I listened to called the weightiest experience that is stored in your aliyah. The one most powerful. It might be very far back, it might even be in previous lives, but if it is the weightiest of all the things that are stored there at this point, that is what will come to the fore and will influence your dreams. The second meaning of the dream and dream yoga, this is called the milam. Bardo, milam means dream, is that we walk through our days in a dream. We have dreams about who we are, about who everyone else is. We attach all kinds of meanings and significances to the people and the things of our world. And these things that we attach to them, again, are the products of our past karma stored in our aliyah. So if you see someone and you have feelings of affection for them and you hardly know them at all, you never met them, you can be pretty sure that it's coming out of the aliyah, some association with someone you knew in the past that this person reminds you of. And if you see someone whom you never have met before and you have feelings of antipathy towards them, you can be pretty sure that it's the aliyah, your karma at work, that you're projecting onto that person, associations from your past. And these are all dreams. And we tend to walk through our lives in dreams, our waking lives, as well as our sleeping lives. We are constantly lost in thought, and that thought is driven by anxiety. It's always trying to avoid problems, avoid unhappiness, and pursue happiness. And that very anxiety is the stuff of karma. That's what it's caused by. It's caused by all your past experiences that condition you to think of what might cause you harm, unhappiness, what might cause you pleasure, benefit. And the only way to free yourself from this, from these dreams, to wake up, is through the process of meditation. In meditation, the first thing we do is come into the present moment. And in the present moment, there is no thought. There's just, when we begin to recognize it, pure awareness of this present moment. And we are free from the strictures, from the anxieties, from the pain of wishing things were otherwise, which is what thought is all about. So the way we wake up from dream, meditation. Call it meditation, call it waking up, call it coming present for our lives. We cut through thought. It's the first benefit of meditation. When you first start practicing meditation, the very beginning practice is shamatha. Shamatha means abiding in peace. That's what the word means in Sanskrit. Shime in Tibetan means the same thing. Abiding in what kind of peace? Peace from thought, the peace of awareness in the present moment. When you come back to the present moment, it's full of peace. There's no conflict, there's no struggle. You're not thinking about how you wish things were otherwise and how you will make them otherwise, which is full of struggle and lack of peace, warfare. The third meaning of dream is what we encounter at death. Specifically, in the Bardo of Becoming, the last Bardo of the two that we experience in death, this is full of dream. This Bardo, and most people who haven't practiced meditation, who walk down the street thinking that they are their thoughts, I wish, I hope, I fear, this is where they go almost immediately. Everybody experiences the Bardo of reality, but if you haven't prepared for it, if you haven't trained, if you haven't meditated, it will go by in a finger snap, like that, because you just won't recognize it. They say that you abide in the Bardo of reality for 5 meditation days. And what a meditation day is the length of time that you can stay present without drifting into thought. So if you can remain present in this space for a minute, you will spend 5 minutes in the Bardo of reality. If you can stay present for a whole day, you will spend 5 days. And you have an opportunity in the Bardo of reality to achieve full enlightenment. And we'll come to that in a few weeks when we talk about that Bardo. And there's a lot more to it, actually, in that Bardo. It's a very, very profound, rich, beautiful experience. But most of us pass straight into the Bardo of becoming. It's like we just go through it in a finger snap. And in the Bardo of becoming, it's basically like being in a dream. They say it lasts 49 days. Of course, that's figurative, because we're without a body, so there's no sun or moon. And it's the 49-day period you've all heard about. And in that time, we are driven and buffeted by our karma. They say that there's a lot of loud noise, like roaring winds, that one minute you can be in Zanzibar and the next minute in Poughkeepsie, just as you can in dreams. And that one minute you can be very happy, and one minute you can be utterly terrified and furious. It just as in dreams. It's very, very changeable. It's purely mental. It's very fast. We'll come to that again in a few weeks. And you have a mental body in the Bardo of becoming. So this is the Bardo of Dream. This is the dream that we experience in death, is in the Bardo of becoming, and lots of dream. Dream being purely mental stories about me and my perils. Let's say like the perils of Pauline, and my successes and my failures and my hopes and my fears. These are what the dreams are all about. Stories about me. And they're all driven by the karma that comes out of the storehouse consciousness. The storehouse consciousness is not some mysterious thing like a consciousness, like it's some kind of separate thing. It's just, they use the word consciousness, but it really refers to just one aspect of neurotic mind, of confused mind. And that aspect is the aspect of storehouse, where your experiences, bits and pieces of them, are stored as memories. Those memories are called seeds, bijas in Sanskrit. And they lie there dormant until something triggers them. Either at night they're just triggered and they churn out in your dreams, or in the daytime when you encounter something that reminds you, and a seed springs to life into an experience in the present moment and colors the way in which you encounter the world. Ponlop Rinpoche says, from the absolute or enlightened point of view, our experience of this life is definitely not the awakened state. It is a dream, a longer dream, that we call samsara, confusion, suffering. So, I mean, really, think about how much you think, we all think, as we walk down the street, as we walk the streets of our lives. All that thought is coloring the way in which we see this world. It's dream. We don't see things as they truly are. The ultimate quality of the dream, you might say the very foundational quality of the dream, and here we're getting into, maybe I'm moving too fast. So there's training in dream yoga. And the main thing that we're training in is learning how to recognize the very foundation of what dreams are. And the very foundation is belief in I and other. As long as we believe that I am, then we also believe that you are, and we're in constant I-other relationships. And those relationships are the stuff of dreams. They're full of drama. They're like TV soap operas, those relationships that we had with everybody else. The stuff from which TV soap operas used to be made. Now they're replaced by reality TV, which is basically the same thing. They're just ridiculous. I mean, I had a friend, very close friend, who was a soap opera star. Towards the end of before soap operas disappeared from television, replaced by reality TV, he had a role, a very prominent role in one of the soap operas, and he was actually two people. He was playing twins, and one of them was good and one of them was evil. Okay, and of course he was the same guy, right? And he looked like each other. They were identical twins, and the evil one commits a murder, I guess, and is sentenced to death by lethal injection. Now, at that time, my friend was in contract negotiations with the network, and he was holding out for more money. And so they were refusing to give him more money. So they killed him off in the series. They gave him a lethal injection. Shortly after that, they resolved the contract dispute, and they brought him miraculously back to life. I mean, this is the stuff of our dreams, right? We do this all the time, these crazy things. It was funny. His name in the series was Todd. And to tell you how much power these dreams have, he was constantly going to conventions on behalf of the soap. And people would come up to him at the convention and address him as Todd, as though that were his real name. Everybody had to know it wasn't. It was his name in the soap. And he said one day he was walking down into the subway, and a homeless woman was sitting there with a couple of kids, and she was begging, and she had her hand out like this, and he put some money in her hand, and she looked up at him and she said, "Todd." It was inescapable for him. He was living inside that story. So the main thing is, you see, whenever we come back into the present fully, ego and other dissolve, at least momentarily. We come back fully into the present, and there is no I and other, at least for an instant perhaps, until you come back into thought, because I and other only live in thought. And really, the whole point of this path, at least one of the first major accomplishments of this path, is to wake up and realize that I and other actually are fictions, are dreams. They're just luminous transparencies floating in the midst of this space, and they're not necessary at all. So the first practice you might do if you train in this yoga, this Bardo of Dream, is to do dream yoga. And I've never done this practice. I have friends who do. The first thing you work on is what's called lucid dreaming. And that is the ability to know in your dream that you are dreaming. And there are techniques for accomplishing this. The second thing you work to accomplish is to control your dreams. So you might deliberately know that you're dreaming and decide that you're going to fly in your dream. Or you might turn a rock into a flower in your dream. You can do these kinds of things. The purpose of this is to achieve awareness in dreams so that you're not trapped in the dream, the way we often are both at night and in the day. We're trapped in dreams of aggression, poverty, desire, envy, all kinds of dreams. And the ability to wake up from the dream and know that you're dreaming and then reshape it is of great benefit because you're not a victim of the dreams. The second training is what's called luminosity yoga. And really, this is the ability to wake up in this life. Really, it's the recognition of reality. And what reality constitutes at this point is emptiness of I and other, that I and other don't exist. And within that emptiness, luminosity. They're two sides of the same coin. The luminosity is the brilliance and the beauty of this world, seen stripped of the dreams of I and other. So, on the one hand, we're free from the anxieties and the compulsions of the dreams of I and other, and on the other hand, we're released into a very vivid world, a world that is luminous. It's in the present moment. It lacks the kind of substance we attribute to this world and dreams. And in this world, and in our normal daily lives, the samsaric lives, we look at Lane and we say, oh, Lane's a solid person. Ben is a solid person. That table is a solid table. It existed in the past, it will exist in the future. If I kick it, it moves. All of that's based on thought about the past and the future. When we begin to recognize what is real, we live in a world of luminous emptiness, in which everything is floating. They call all of these things, the objects of the senses and of mind, appearances. These appearances arise only in the present, and they arise and pass away like images in a mirror, like reflections in water. And we're living that. It's a shift of loyalty, a shift of awakening, a waking up, a discovery, you might say. He says, the fruition of these trainings let's see what I'm leaving out here. Yeah, he's talking about arising in a pure wisdom body, free of confusion, free of the dreams. A lot of these trainings, if you train in dream yoga, as it pertains to sleep, you need to have a relationship with a teacher, a realized teacher, a teacher who, him or herself, has experienced these practices and these realizations. That's just a caveat. This is very profound stuff. The fruition of these trainings results in the attainment of two of the three aspects of the enlightened nature of mind. These are called the bodies of the Buddha, and there are three of them. And the fruition of dream yoga, of working with dreams, of becoming free from dreams, results in the recognition of two of the three. Although if you recognize any one, you really have all three. But the two that are focused on are the Dharma body of the Buddha, and that's called the Dharmakaya, and the pleasure body, or enjoyment body of the Buddha, which is the Sambhogakaya. The Dharma body of the Buddha is what I've just been describing, the emptiness aspect. That all of this is like a very lucid, transparent mirror in which nothing actually has any true existence. That's the Sambhogakaya, the Dharmakaya body. The Sambhogakaya is the fact that while in this mirror nothing has any true existence, nonetheless, appearances arise. And those appearances float in the mirror, very colorful, very vivid. Sensations of your bottom on the cushion, the sound of this voice, the colors of this room, all of it. That's the Sambhogakaya. They say of the Sambhogakaya, it arises spontaneously. The term in Tibetan is hlumdrup. It's continuously, spontaneously arising and passing away in this present moment. It is spontaneous. Hlumdrup is the Tibetan word for it. And it is dynamically vivid. The word in Tibetan is tsal, a very difficult word to translate. It refers to all of this being dynamic, moving, and extraordinarily vivid, the senses. He says the third aspect, the Nirmanakaya, is the uninterrupted display in physical form of these two energies, mind's empty essence and its unceasingly creative power, the Tsal. It is the union of alpha pure, pure from being of any kind, and the spontaneously present luminous nature of mind, manifesting in a variety of pure and impure forms. Impure forms are forms, that's what we samsaric people, like me, see. We see people in things as having true existence, so they're impure. Pure forms is when you see them as they truly are, as manifestations of emptiness appearing in this mirror of the mind, with extraordinary vividness and beauty and power and meaning. So he says at death, at the moment that you pass into the Bardo of Dharma, if you've trained, if you've practiced enough, and if you've had realization, so that you've recognized any of this, if you've had moments, and so many people have, flashes, even just a moment where suddenly the world appeared extraordinarily vividly to you, and you sort of, and then later you wanted to recapture that and forgot about it. Lots of people have these just little flashes of experience. Other people have moments of realization that go on for some periods of time and then disappear. But the interesting thing is that when it occurs at death, you have an opportunity. It's much more powerful, the experience, than it is in life. Because the death, it's such a crux, the experience of death. You're losing everything. Not only that, your mind has actually died and stopped. And then it's coming back. And so that there's a tremendous opportunity to recognize this much more powerfully and achieve awakening into the real world, which is what this path is all about. You can do it during this lifetime. You can do it at death. At death, it's actually easier. You have this opportunity if you've trained, if you've practiced. Basically, what amounts to Vipassana, coming back into awareness of the present moment, out of dream, over and over again. Letting go of dream, coming back to awareness in the present moment. It's good for your life, and it's the best practice to prepare for death. If you practice this, even if you don't achieve enlightenment, you will have a better death and a better rebirth, because you won't be as victimized by the dreams. He says, this training is even more essential for the karmic bardo of becoming. That's the bardo in which you're going to take rebirth. This is because at that time, one meets with powerful projections of one's own mind. This is your karma. And that are confused and could lead to intense states of suffering, as well as to an unfavorable rebirth. Once we become capable with these practices, we will be able to take death as the path. We will see that death, too, is a dream. When we gain mastery over the dying mind, we're able to go wherever we wish when we die, just as we can in dreams. Powerful stuff. And at some point there are people around who are teaching dream yoga, and also POA, transference of consciousness, which is a related practice. Both of them aimed at having a better rebirth and not being victimized by your past karma. I just emphasized that through all of these practices, the core practice is the very one that we just did here tonight. The very simple practice of coming present, Vipassana practice. Coming present to your life now. It's waking up. We do it again and again. So we can have a discussion if you like. There's a mic somewhere. Anybody got it? Yes, Carmen has it.
John, at the very beginning of the talk, you referred to the mental body. What exactly is the mental body?
At night, it's very simple. At night, when you're dreaming, in the dream, you might have a body. It's purely mental. You imagine yourself, it's not physical. You're dreaming. Your real body's lying there in the bed. But you might go through a whole story about what you're doing. That's a mental body.
And is it the mental body that continues after death and as you're born?
No. It's just a fiction. And in fact, in the Bardo of Becoming, which is like a big dream, you have the body, they say, in the first sort of half of the 49 days, you have the body of the 7-year-old child you were in your past life, the one that just died. And in the next half of the Bardo of Becoming, you have the Bardo of a 7-year-old child that you might be in the next birth. It's fictional. It's your dream. It's your creation of mind.
Totally fiction.
Huh?
The mental body is totally fiction.
Well, I mean, to some degree, so is this one. But the other one's purely mental. The other one, the senses are not operating. They've died. They've passed away.
Yeah, because I have a related question that I know there are spiritual traditions, I think some Buddhists included, that speak about developing the mental body. Do you have any thoughts about that? Is that something that one wants to develop?
Only to the extent that I briefly mentioned here, because I'm not trained in dream yoga, that when you are trained in dream yoga, you are trained to be able to manipulate your dreams. And in those dreams, you might have a body and you might do things with it, to it, fly in the sky. Suddenly you can do that with it. That's one of the common things that they say that if you're practicing dream yoga, you might do in your dreams when you become adept, if you become adept. Christine.
Did you want to say something?
No.
Does levitation, for example,
And what?
I think I turned it off. Press the
No.
button underneath. Sorry, I turned it off.
Did you turn it on?
Push the button, there's a button on the bottom, hold it down until it turns green.
On the very bottom.
On the bottom.
Yeah, I'm pushing.
Let go.
Where's the green? Where's the
If you look at the bottom, let go of the thumb.
Oh, of course, I have my finger on it. You can't see it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Does what came to mind when you said that was levitation or things that advanced, more than that, enlightened beings can do. Is that the mind? In other words, are they just expert at dream yoga? When they can do things that are...
You mean miracles kind of things? Fly?
No, also physically. I mean, levitation comes to mind,
What comes to mind?
Levitate.
Oh, levitate.
Yeah. Which normally people can't do. But enlightened beings can do things that we can't do. And so that came to mind.
That's
And
odd.
yeah, we're still together.
Something strange happened, but okay.
But it's changed this year?
Yeah. So you're asking about miraculous activities,
Yeah.
like flying, reading minds,
Yeah,
walking
yeah.
through walls, and that kind of thing. There are stories about enlightened beings being able to do that. Do some, have stories like that. They're often purported as being mythical, but sometimes not. So, for instance, one of the common siddhis, siddhi means power, that some people have, is the ability to see the future. And it's called, the Tibetans call it prasena. Dzogchen Rinpoche, my teacher, said that actually it's a matter of having a gland. If you've got the gland, you will be able to do prasena, and if you don't have it, you won't. And he was quite famous for his ability among Tibetans, for his ability to do prasena. He did it very sparingly, and he didn't really care much about it, and he sort of made a big joke out of it when the times that I do it. And the way you do prasena is you actually look in a mirror. And he said he could do it looking in his thumbnail, and see the future. So there are things like that. But every time I've heard of it, the people who have these capabilities could care less, and they sort of happens almost by accident.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to point out the physical aspect of it, because you were saying that in the dream, with dream yoga, that you could fly, for example. And so that's what triggered the question in my mind.
Yeah.
These physical activities like flying or levitating or whatever, is there like a connection between dream yoga and these activities that advanced beings can do?
No,
Okay,
I don't
that
think
was
so.
my question.
I don't think so. But what keeps happening?
It's radio interference.
The main thing is this, that when people start talking about miracles, as a result of meditation, they're looking for something spectacular. And it's very ego-driven. Like they're hoping that they'll become extraordinary. And really, what this path is all about is becoming completely ordinary. Completely ordinary. People think the Buddha was extraordinary, but actually he was an example of a completely ordinary human being. And we, in our confusion, would like to be extraordinary. But he was just completely human. And really that's the goal of this path, is to become a completely ordinary human being, present here for this world, for this life. And you can turn that into something extraordinary and say, well, that's really terrific. And then you've perverted it again. It's really a matter of giving up our egotism and self and ambition, which is such a cause of suffering. It just builds the self, And when we give that up and we become present, then we discover what these teachings are talking about, which is the extraordinary beauty and meaningfulness of this world, which is lit by vividness and compassion.
But then in dream yoga, I guess it's not working. In dream yoga, you don't have ego, right?
Oh, you do, sure.
Do you?
Oh yeah, absolutely, you can. But you see, the whole point is, that's why in our dreams, all of us, what is doing that? Got it?
I'm going to try this other mic.
Okay. You see, in our dreams, we're always dreaming about I. I. We're telling these stories about me. And we're just lost in dream, the same way we are in our waking lives as we walk down the street, lost in worry, anger, envy, jealousy, whatever it might be, Dreams, stories about ourselves, poverty mentality, poor me, I'm so, lonely, I'm terrible, blah, blah, blah. And all these stories are are full of me, I, which is the suffering. That's the very stuff of samsara.
Okay,
right?
but then why would we want to cultivate that by doing dream yoga?
Dream yoga is all about learning how to wake up in your dreams, just the way we're practicing it when we sit on our cushion. To wake up, to come back to consciousness of the present. To wake up from the dream. Yeah. To realize that we're dreaming. And we can do that as we walk down the street. We can do that as we sit on the cushion. We fall into dream, right? We all do this. We sit on the cushion and suddenly you realize, gosh, I was dreaming. And I was having this fight with somebody in Tallahassee, or making love to somebody in Poughkeepsie. And I was lost in the dream. And you come back to this world. Well, there are levels of dream. They say that during the course of your life, there are basically two levels of dream. The dream of sleep, and that's sort of on top of the dream that we've got going all the time, which is the dream of me. Me and my problems, me and my hopes, me and my fears, me and my successes, me and my failures. That's the core underlying dream that we carry on. And on top of that, then we have daydreams like we're walking down the street and we're thinking about what we're going to do when we go to Florida, and how much fun that's going to be. So that's a second level of dream. And then a third level of dream is what happens at night.
So that's the hardest to wake up from.
That's the hardest to wake up from, yeah. Yeah. And well, really the hardest to wake up from is the dream of me. That core, fundamental belief in I. That's the very stuff of ignorance, the stuff of samsara. Wake up from that one, you've achieved pretty much enlightenment. Not quite, maybe, but close. Yeah. Huge release from samsara. Then we're no longer carrying this sack of woe we call me around. Waking up from that. And we can do it momentarily. Every time we come present. Every time you come 100% present, thoughts of I are gone.
So there's called this dream-like quality when we are sleeping and when we're awake, and all of those moments that you mentioned, just mentioned.
I'm sorry, I can't hear the question. Can we
Let
try
me
that?
give it a try.
Can you give me the mic?
Want to try?
Yeah, let's try.
So I was asking that there's all this dream-like quality of our stream of experience, and what strikes me, I don't quite understand is why when we fall asleep, what is it that changes that we don't create, that karma doesn't take place, but we just sort of open the door for karma's effects to act as opposed to why do we stop being agents of
Why do we stop being
agents of karma action?
how and why?
Yeah.
Every time you wake up, every time you come back into the present moment, you cut the karmic chain. We do it all the time.
You mentioned, for example, that
What?
when we are sleeping,
No,
karma
when we're sleeping, we're not, usually, unless we're
Right.
trained in how to do that. Unless we've trained in dream yoga and how to wake up in our dreams. How to realize that we're dreaming. I'm not sure if you're cutting the karmic chain in the way you do that, but the first step is really to wake up and realize that you are dreaming while you're dreaming. Second step is to be able to control the dream.
right? But
And then you're not, it's victim.
But you mean waking up in your dream?
Yes.
You're still sleeping.
Well, I mean, I'm using it figuratively speaking. You're still sleeping, but you're realizing that you're dreaming.
In your dream, you're
In your
really
dream.
dreaming.
Right.
You're still laying there sleeping.
Yeah, this is called lucid dreaming. And a lot of people try to practice this who aren't even Buddhists. They just practice lucid dreaming.
But like in daily life, for example, we are creating karma whether we whether we realize or not, right? Or what makes the karma? Is the intention?
The intention, exactly. It's the thought. It's the belief in I and the intentionality of the relationship between I and other. These dramas, that's the karma.
And when we're sleeping, we cannot have that intention somehow. Intention.
Oh yeah, you can. You dream stories, whole dramas, soap operas about I and other in your dreams, right? We do that in our dreams. Absolutely, and that's the playing out of these habits that we've stored in our minds. Sorry, Tim. Am I getting this across?
I'll try.
Yes. I think we need batteries, maybe.
I think we need batteries.
Yeah.
We definitely need batteries.
So, plug in.
Wait a second.
They're charging.
No, there are a couple batteries there.
Yeah, there's 4.
So my question is, with regard,
Let's get the batteries.
Just a little bit. Maybe I misunderstood, because you said that while we're sleeping, what is happening is like we are kind of living the effects of the karma that we already produced during the waking life.
But when we do that, we create more karma. We create new experiences. You know, you mix a little of this and a little of that, and you've got a new stew. And that leaves its impression in the alaya. It leaves seeds. This is the rolling forward of karma. Karma is constantly rolling forward and creating more karma. So for instance, the example I always use is a child is walking down the street with its mother. And a dog comes up, and the child, maybe it's 2 or 3 years old, and it goes over to the dog, and the dog bites it. Traumatic incident, right? The memory is stored in the child's alaya, storehouse consciousness, of this dog that bit it. Months go by, the child's not thinking of the dog anymore. And then one day the child's walking down the street again and sees another dog in the distance. Immediately the memory of being bitten springs to mind, right? And the child is afraid. That past memory colors the perception of that child of this new dog. The mother sees what's going on, finds out that goes up to the owner of the dog, finds out this is a friendly dog, brokers a meeting with the child. The child experiences a dog that's friendly. The dog licks its face, jumps up, wags its tail. That plants a new seed in the alaya, which is a friendly dog. Now the child has these 2 seeds, one of an aggressive dog, one of a friendly dog. Child meets a third dog, it's going to temper its meeting with that third dog. It'll wonder, is it going to be aggressive, is it going to be friendly? It won't be like the second meeting where it's immediately afraid because it remembers that first incident, right? And this is the rolling forward of karma. And this happens in your dreams too. Every experience that you've got, every experience, including the dreams, plants seeds in the alaya, seeds of memory. If you remember your dreams, you don't have to remember them consciously, even vaguely remember them. There are lots of things that we only vaguely remember, but which nonetheless sort of perfume the storehouse. And they say that these memories, these seeds, perfume the storehouse. That's what the word they use. The word is vasana. It perfumes it. And what that means is that, like, let's say you've had a lot of abuse as a child. Sexual abuse. I happen to know a person who has, a woman. Utterly, it's changed her relationship throughout her entire life to men. Because every time she meets a man, the memory of that childhood abuse colors the way she sees that man, even though she knows that, not all men nearly are abusers, but some are. And so those experiences perfumed her alaya in such a way that she encounters the world through that veil. We all do that. Not only that, but the vague feeling of that perfuming back there, that vague feeling of the character of all your memories that you've got that are stored there, is what we identify as me. When we think of who is I, who is me, we look inside and we can sort of vaguely feel this person in there. Who is it? It's the person who we think of, oh yeah, I remember when I was 7, and I was picked on, I was bullied, or, my mother really loved me, and we can remember all those things, and those things are back there perfuming it. And that's what the conscious mind, when it talks of I, it's sort of feeling that vague sense of identity coming out of the Alaya. That's perfumed it. Does that answer it or address it?
Except the part of intention, I guess.
Oh, intention.
I actually wanted to expand Carmen's question about intentionality and agency.
Mm-hmm.
So 99.9% of the dreams that I've ever had seem to be more like movies. So I'm not acting in my dreams, I'm replaying something. And so, to Lane's question, my experience, which could vary widely from everyone else's, is that the dream body, the mental body that I have in a particular dream, generally has to do with the story. So when I'm having a dream about my brother and I running on a beach in the Carolinas when we were kids, the mental body that I have fits that story. I don't ever have that dream with this body. So I think the mental body can take any number of shapes, but in my experience, it usually takes one per story, let's say. But the other question was that, the expansion is that I don't feel like I'm acting in the movie-type dreams, but I have had a few experiences of lucid dreaming where I was actually realized that I was dreaming, didn't wake up, and started making choices that changed the story. So my question is, in that sort of a dream, I'm acting with agency and intention, and then I would be creating karma.
Mm-hmm.
But in the other one, I'm not. The dream is happening to me, and I don't have any control over it whatsoever. So then the question is karma being created while I'm watching this movie? Because karma, my limited understanding of the translation of it, is cause and effect. So my intentions when I give to a homeless person are different depending on whether I aim to make myself famous for being a homeless person giver, or whether I just intend to help someone who's down on their luck. The exact same action with the exact same amount and the exact same person can have markedly different effects depending on what my intentions are. Mm-hmm. But in my dreams, I don't have any intentions unless I'm dreaming lucidly.
Mm-hmm. No, you can dream. You can dream and you're fighting a battle with somebody,
but it's beyond my control.
Well,
I can't control that dream because I'm not dreaming lucidly.
I put it to you that when you're caught up in an emotion, let's say, and you're striking out in anger, you're out of control. And basically, the problem is, how do we relate with our emotions? And as long as we're not awake, as long as we're still sleeping, dreaming in one way or another, then we are going to do one of two things with the emotions. We're either going to repress them because we don't want them, or we're going to act them out because we don't want them. When you act them out, you're trying to get rid of it, cathartic. You're angry at somebody, you punch them in the nose, you call them a name. You're passionate, you're lustful. You try and have sex with somebody to cathartic, to blow it out. We do the same thing in dreams.
What if you don't do either of those things? What if you don't push the emotion away, you don't act on the emotion, but you just sit there and experience it?
Then you're a meditator, and you're on the path to enlightenment, and you're going to wake up in the Bardo of reality, because that's what the Bardo of reality is all about. It's not doing, one of those two things. The problem in samsara is that we're rejecting the emotions as though they were bad. That's why they're called klesha. It means defilement.
Affliction.
Right. But really, when they're seen properly, they are the wisdoms. And to see them properly means you're not trying to get rid of them by either repressing them or catharting them, acting them out, blowing them out. And you're recognizing them as energies, as real, valid energies. And then they're beautiful. And then they become the 5 wisdoms of the 5 Buddhas. That's what they say.
So So I also wanted, before Carmen offered that question, which I thought was really great, to offer another example of cities. So most people realize, I suppose, that the Bhagavad Gita is a sub-story inside of the Mahabharata.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning, Sanjaya, who is an advisor to the king, Dhritarashtra, who is blind, is reporting events that are happening on the Kuru battlefield. Mm-hmm. So Sanjaya has the city of remote seeing so that he can, that's why he got the gig as the king's advisor. Supposedly, that could be mythical, or it could have actually happened. We don't know that it didn't happen. But people who are dedicated secular materialists can't abide that it could be otherwise, so they force it to be mythical, which is, I think, not necessarily the case. Possibility, but not.
Well, I'll tell you what Buddhism says about siddhi. Okay, so first of all, the word siddhi. Siddhi means power. And one who has siddhis is a siddha, a power holder. There are two kinds of siddhi, basically. Ordinary and whatever you want to call it, supreme. Supreme and ordinary siddhi.
Supernormal.
Huh?
Supernormal.
No, not supernormal. The supreme siddhi is enlightenment. Everything else is ordinary. And what ordinary means is you can fly, you can walk through walls, you can read minds, you can walk through fire and not be burned, whatever it might be. These are ordinary siddhis. The instruction is these siddhis may come, as well as very pleasurable experiences that are called nyam experiences. And the experience with all of them, the recommendation, the teaching, with all of them is don't cherish them. Just let them go. You know, if they're there, they're there. If they're not, they're not. No big deal. If you hang on to them, that's the path of suffering. That's the path of egotism and samsara. I mean, think of it. Each one of us has some siddhis, you know, little ones. Tim's got the siddhi of being able to control the lights at the Metropolitan Opera. I couldn't do that. You know, that's a siddhi that you've got. You know, I mean, everybody has something that you acquire. Some of them, though, are very, very unusual. That's a pretty unusual siddhi that he's got. Not many people can do that. But even more unusual might be flying, I would think.
Levitating.
Huh?
Levitating, at least.
Levitating. Yeah, levitating.
Anybody with a credit card can fly if they go to JFK.
Huh?
Anyone with a
credit card can fly if they go to JFK. Right. Yeah, or get a pair of, one of those wings, hang glider. So, the instruction again and again with regard to siddhis is don't cherish them, don't follow them. It's sort of crass, to hold this out as a benefit, a reward of meditation practice. And there are traditions that do that. Meditate enough and you'll levitate.
It's interesting to hear you say that because I happen to know for a fact that the third book of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras specifically addresses siddhis. And the advice is exactly the same that you just gave. That if they should arise, it's a sign that you're making progress, but you should not pay any attention to them other than perhaps being encouraged. But don't practice them, don't cultivate them.
And don't hold on to it.
Just notice that they're there. Okay, yeah, that was interesting. And then keep going.
Keep going, absolutely. Thank you, that was beautiful. That is the recommendation. You notice it, it could be a sign that you're making progress, which is encouraging, and then let it go completely. To the extent that you don't let it go, it will become a source of suffering and hold you back on the path. Become a manifestation of egotism. Just like any other siddhi. I mean, like people who walk around saying, I'm really terrific because I made billions of dollars, like someone we know. Or I'm really terrific because I'm so beautiful and handsome. I mean, that's a siddhi, temporary one. So let's end. Think? Unless someone has something. Huh?
It's okay, never mind.
Oh, sorry, you had a question.
That's all right.
Let's do it.
I actually had two.
Sorry, Joe.
So as far as lucid dreaming goes, I've I've been having, like I've had dreams that were not pleasant dreams. And then in my dream, I realize I'm dreaming.
That's good. That's a lucid
And
dream.
I'm telling myself in my sleep, you're dreaming, Joe. Just wake up and end this dream. But that becomes another thing in itself. So I don't know what to make of that.
There are recommendations for what to do with this at that point. And I'm not going to go into them because I'm not trained in this.
Right.
If you want, you can read a little more of Ponlop's book. He goes into it a little bit more, but I don't think it's enough. Really, what you need to do, what we need to do if we wanted to learn this, is to get with someone, a teacher, who is trained in lucid dreaming, in dream yoga, and learn it that way. Yeah.
Also, the other thing I want to say was, I was reading...
Because there are recommendations about what to do when you encounter that.
Yeah.
And they're quite specific.
So let's talk about this.
Okay.
So I'm reading the chapter and I'm reading the part about waking life, how everything is an illusion, just like dreams. And I'm scratching my head and thinking, what the... And I turn the page and it says, just like what happened yesterday or last week is not real, not real just as your dream was not real. In the present moment, that doesn't exist anymore. So it kind of made a little more sense to me, which I was very happy about that, because I was being a little put off by what I was reading earlier. It made a little more sense to me.
Great. That's wonderful.
I think I need to read it over again.
Read it again. And know this, that there's a slogan. There are different versions of what are called the common preliminary practices. The most common preliminary practices are the contemplation on the value of having a human birth, and the fact that death is real and will come without warning, that that the law of karma is very powerful and rules us.
Inescapable.
Huh?
Inescapable, right?
Inescapable. And the last one is, yes, I was backing up a little bit, but you're right, it's inescapable. And the last one is that this confusion that we live in is an ocean of suffering. Terrible. Okay? So those are the four common ones. There's another one, though, that says, there's another set of 7, this one. And one of them is that at the moment of death, your memories of your past life will be of no more significance than last night's dream. And basically, they're the same stuff. The memories of your past life and last night's dream, they're fictions. Because your memory is so selective. You've selected out this little bit and that little bit and this little bit and created a story that you tell yourself about what happened. Someone standing next to you at that moment in your, yesterday or 2 weeks ago would have seen something entirely different.
Well, that's sort of what I was saying in the book about what happened to you last week.
That's it.
Just as non-existent as your dream was. However, the difference is there can be consequences to what happened to you last week and this week.
There can be, absolutely. Yeah. But even your valuing of those consequences is part of the dream. Because it's part of the value system. And to the extent that we realize that we're dreaming in our daily life, to that extent we begin also to wake up. You can't wake up unless you realize you're dreaming. So that to the extent we see the way in which we color our world through these dreams, these habitual dreams that are so peculiar to me. There's an exercise that, I can't remember if it's in this book or not. It's very valuable to identify what is your primary klesha. Is it envy? Is it passion? Is it lust? Is it sloth, stupidity, just wanting to sort of eat all the time? Is it pride? Is it passion? Whatever it might be. it's very interesting to identify that everybody has one, sort of their main thing, and then to watch it at play in the way in which it drives your life. That's different than other people's. That's an exercise that it's very valuable, and they say that it's very valuable in death to know that, to have identified it, to have contemplated it. Because then when it appears in death, it'll appear much more clearly, and you will not be so victimized by it. Well, we should end. Thank you all. If let's say the closing chant. By this merit may all attain omniscience, may it defeat the enemy wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great east, may the lotus garden of the Rigden's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory.